With 10 quarters of continuous economic growth, President Nicolás Maduro assured that Venezuela advances in the construction of a diversified sector. After 88 days of the genocidal operation in Gaza, Israel intensifies bombing of residential areas and refugee camps. And in Japan, authorities registered over 48 people killed following a 7.6 magnitude earthquake that struck the West. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the TeleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The president of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro, assured that the country is advancing in the construction of a diversified economy after 10 quarters of continuous economic growth. During an interview with journalist Ignacio Ramonet, the head of state emphasized that the country has managed to maintain the growth of the 18 productive engines as part of the Bolivarian economic agenda. The president also highlighted that although the central bank has not revealed official figures, the country grew at least 4.5%, thus meeting the growth expectations of ECLAC. Maduro recalled that this growth is taking place under the blockade imposed by the United States against the country, which has lost 99% of national income and after the theft of more than $21 billion in assets of the nation.
I think that 2023 is a step forward as well. We have 10 quarters of continuous economic growth that started in 2021, and we have managed to maintain growth in what I define as the Bolivarian economic agenda.
President Nicolás Maduro gave his traditional interview at the beginning of the year to the Franco-Spanish journalist Ignacio Ramonet and explained that Washington maintains coercive measures against his country and Venezuela maintains a yielding position to completely and absolutely eliminate all illegal sanctions. In a broad account of national and world current events, the Bolivarian head of state narrated how negotiations with Washington have been carried out. He clarified that the imperialist pretensions of the White House have not changed. Concessions and agreements that have been reached were reached in order to guarantee fundamental rights. The Venezuelan president ratified the country's position on the illegal measures and gave an account of the advances and progress made by the national economy against all odds. Speaking during the anniversary celebration of the Cuban Revolution, President Miguel Díaz-Canel reflected on the obstacles the Caribbean nation has faced in the last decades.
Nothing has been easy for Cuba, nor has it been easy for the enemies of the revolution. We have tried everything, and everything has failed, because hatred disintegrates in front of heroical and creative people who choose love and dignity as a formula.
The leader expressed the collaboration of Cuban medical personnel in different parts of the world.
During these 6 decades, 300,000 Cuban health professionals has collaborated in 165 countries, and more recently, in the pandemic period of the COVID-19, some 3,000 members of the contingent Henry Reed provided services in 40 of them. Some 27,000 young people in 100 nations have graduated from Milan Latin American School of Medical Sciences, and more than 4 million low-income people in our region and Africa regained their vision with the Operation Miracles. This is also the revolution, coherent with the example of Ernesto Guevara, the beloved Che.
The historic leader of the Cuban Revolution, Raúl Castro, said that despite the difficulties imposed by the United States, it was possible to build a just homeland.
We have had to face the permanent and perverse aggressiveness of the enemy, who have turned even to military invasion, to terrorism, and to a ruthless and healing blockade condemned by the overwhelming majority nations of the world in their failed attempt to destroy our revolution, and erase this impeding example for other people that it is possible to build a just and humane society with equal opportunities for all.
Guatemala's Vice President-elect Karina Herrera acknowledged the historic debt pending with the country's indigenous communities. The Vice President took part in the inauguration of the new Board of Directors of the 48 cantons of Totonicapán. There, in addition to expressing her gratitude for the unprecedented deference paid to a national president, she reiterated that on January 14th there will be a change of leadership. Despite the fact that the 48 cantons, which are indigenous organizations made up of Quiche communities in the western part of the country, are one of the most influential platforms in the country, Herrera acknowledged centuries of neglect and abandonment and reiterated that in the elected government the pending debts will be honored. The finance minister of Honduras, Rixi Moncada, presented on Monday her resignation to aspire to the presidency of the republic. Moncada made her decision known through a publication on social media. In this sense, the current president, Xiomara Castro, also announced changes in her government cabinet. In the text, Moncada expressed her gratitude to Castro for her commitment to the people and communicated her desire to participate as a candidate for the presidential candidacy for the Free Party to continue with the mission of refoundation. She also communicated that Mauricio Ramos will be her running mate in the next elections at the end of 2025. Moncada's resignation to the finance secretary is effective as of January 1st. Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at TeleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. In Palestine, the Israeli occupation committed 15 massacres in the last 24 hours during the 88th day of the ongoing siege of the Gaza Strip. The health ministry in Gaza reported over 207 Palestinian kills and 338 wounded in the latest Israeli massacres. Likewise, the Tel Aviv regime's bombardments have led to the deterioration of the health situation, the limited entry of humanitarian aid, and the interruption of water and fuel supplies in the Palestinian enclave. As a result of the Israeli genocidal attacks, 22,185 Palestinians have been killed and more than 57,000 wounded since the beginning of the Israeli aggression. Also in Palestine, at least 5 Palestinians were killed Tuesday in the West Bank amid a new Israeli military operation against the Palestinian territory. Israel's defense ministry reported that its soldiers shot dead a man in the middle of a raid. Hours earlier, another 4 Palestinians were reported killed in the midst of an armed raid in the northern West Bank of Asun. The 4 deceased were identified as Walid Radwan, 18 years old, Qusay Jamal Adwan, 21 years old, Iyad Beita, 22 years old, and Mohammad Abdel Fattah Radwan, 29 years old. During the military operation, Israeli forces conducted raids and searches of homes and businesses, seizing surveillance footage from multiple stores. Israel has intensified its nighttime actions in several cities in the Palestinian territory. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Palestine on Tuesday denounced the kidnapping of 10-month-old baby girl perpetrated by soldiers of the Israeli occupation army. The confession of an Israeli soldier about the facts has triggered the alarms, and it is feared that it is not an isolated case. Sashar Mendelssohn stated on Israeli army radio that Captain Harel Itachi from the Givati Brigade took a Palestinian baby girl to a hospital in Israel. According to the soldiers' testimony, they heard the girl crying inside a house after a bombing, so the captain decided to take her without confirming if her relatives survived. It is unclear if it is an isolated incident or if there are other similar cases. Israel's Zionist government rejected a proposal for the Palestinian organization Hamas to release several of Israeli citizens taken by the resistance since October 7th. Israeli media cite several official sources who confirm that they have received, through the intermediary of the Qatari and Egyptian mediators, a 3-phase proposal stipulating the release of hostages, even if Tel Aviv maintains its attacks on Gaza. The first phase provided for the withdrawal of Zionist troops from the enclave in exchange for the release of 40 hostages and some Palestinians kidnapped in the Hebrew country. The World Cabinet rejected the proposal and asked the mediators on Monday to work on a more acceptable one. Authorities in Japan reported on Tuesday that at least 48 people were killed in a 7.6 magnitude earthquake that struck the west coast of Japan on Monday. According to authorities in Ishikawa Prefecture, 20 fatalities were confirmed in Suzu City, 19 in Wajima City, 5 in Nanao, 2 in Anamizu, 1 in Hakui, and 1 in Shiga. The earthquake was felt over a wide area from Aomori Prefecture in northeastern Japan to the Kyushu region in the southwest, forced the suspension of bullet trains and knocked out power to more than 32,000 homes. Tsunami warnings were initially issued for coastal areas in 5 prefectures, but the waves did not reach the height that was feared. It was the strongest earthquake since records began in 1885, according to the Japan Meteorological Agency. In this context, a Japan airline plane caught fire and collided with a Coast Guard plane at Haneda Airport in the city of Tokyo. The airport authorities reported that the 367 passengers and 12 crew members who were on the plane at the time of the collision were extracted in time before the aircraft foisted. The airport security cameras captured images of the aircraft enveloped in flames and while the passengers and crew members were exiting. Meanwhile, the authorities reported 5 people dead, all of them belonging to the second aircraft. Firefighters and emergency personnel continue on site to provide assistance to civilians. In Indonesia, more than 2,000 residents have been evacuated to temporary shelters amid heightened volcanic activities in a volcano in the country's east. Mount Lewotobi Laki-Laki in East Nusa Tenggara province has erupted several times in recent weeks, including an eruption on Monday that spewed volcanic ash 1.5 kilometers above its peak. The Center for Volcanology and Geological Hazard recorded another eruption from Lewotobi Laki-Laki on Tuesday, but ash clouds from the volcano were not observed. Volcanic ashes from recent eruptions have affected 2 sub-districts near Lewotobi Laki-Laki Mountain, prompting more than 2,200 residents to evacuate to temporary shelters set up by local governments. The Southeast Asian archipelago sits on the Pacific Ring of Fire, an area of intense volcanic and seismic activity. Indonesia has nearly 130 active volcanoes.
We are trying to mobilize aid as there are growing needs from the evacuees. Indeed, we can cover everything instantly, but we keep working on it. We are giving our best attention to the elderly, children, females, and people with disabilities. The villagers are now still in panic. Most of the residents have been evacuated to the nearest town. At the moment, the village is empty because people have moved to shelters.
Bolivia's National Meteorology and Hydrology Service issued an orange alert for this week due to the possibility of river overflows caused by rainfall in 8 of the country's departments. The meteorological agency indicated that from January 2nd to the 5th, overflows are expected in the Guadalquivir and Bermejo river basins in the department of Tarija. In the department of Potosí, overflows are forecast from January 2nd to the 4th in the San Juan del Oro, Tumusla, and Alto Pilcomayo river basins. An increase in flow is also expected in the basins of the Grandes, Pilcomayo, and Parapetí rivers in the department of Chuquisaca. Likewise, possible increases are expected for this week in the basin of the Mamoré River in the department of Santa Cruz. The Vice Ministry of Civil Defense and the municipal government of La Asunta in Bolivia helped the families that were affected in the community of Las Mercedes. At present, the government set up a shelter to guarantee the safety of the evacuated people. Authorities reported that the landslide caused by the flooding of the rivers affected several houses and crops in the country. Let's now have a second short break. But before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly and share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with TeleSUR. Found your break? Don't go away. Welcome back from the South. The President of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Felix Tshisekedi, celebrated his victory on Monday after registering more than 70% of the votes in his favor. In a speech delivered moments after learning that the Electoral Authority had confirmed that his candidacy had obtained 73% of the votes, the re-elected head of state assured that his was a collective victory. Tshisekedi expressed that the results confirmed the confidence of the Congolese in his administration for a second term. However, opposition groups do not agree with the president's triumph and assured that the elections have not been transparent and warned of mobilizations and protests in the near future. In Ukraine, several explosions have rocked different regions as bombing alerts are going off all over the country. In Kiev, the capital of the country, explosions were recorded in several facilities and buildings. Vitaly Klitschko, mayor of the city, confirmed that several districts were left without power and water supply was interrupted. The authorities in Kharkov, Vinnytsia, and Kirovograd also reported heavy detonations on the first day of 2024. Russian President Vladimir Putin pledged a response to the terrorist attack on Belgorod that killed 25 civilians and wounded more than 100 by Ukrainian fire. Russia began its pro-tempore share of the BRICS group to promote associative cooperation in politics, security, and economy. Russia's pro-tempore presidency is assumed under the slogan of strengthening multilateralism for equitable global development and security. Russian President Vladimir Putin assured that the state will also ensure the promotion of cooperation between the countries at cultural and humanitarian levels. The Russian head of state pointed out that he will also work for energy and food security and the implementation of national currencies in trade. In this context, the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, confirmed on Monday the incorporation of 5 countries to the BRICS group, bringing the total number of members to 10. The organization, formed by Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, now counts with Egypt, Iran, the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Ethiopia as new members of BRICS. This announcement is one of the first actions carried out by the Russian president as president pro tempore of the international organization, thus attracting more supporters. The president pointed out that they will work in the category of these 2 partners in 3 key areas such as politics, economy, and cultural contacts. In Europe, around 30,000 migrants crossed the English Channel from France to the United Kingdom in an irregular procedure in 2023. UK authorities report that the number of cross-channel migrants has fallen by more than a third this year, the second highest since 2022, which saw a record of 45,000 migrants. For its part, the main Labour opposition points out that the British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak has not fulfilled his promise to stop migrant journeys, and they denounce his migration policy as chaos. Meanwhile, Sunak's government said that the $610 million agreement signed with France to prevent the crossing is beginning to bring results. In China, a wind energy park with an average altitude of 4,650 meters was inaugurated in the Xishan Autonomous Region in the southwest of the country. Located in the city of Naku, the project has 25 turbines capable of providing approximately 200 million kilowatt-hours of electricity per year, saving around 60,000 tons of standard coal. This wind farm is expected to reduce carbon dioxide emissions by around 160,000 tons. This energy transition is one of China's goals on its path to green development and carbon neutrality. Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on our social media on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.